Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Good, Dan. How you been?
Good. Ryan was very detailed just now in kind of explaining the attraction to Andy and what you guys see in him. I'm curious, though, with Nick, the reason Andy's here is because Nick fell short of the expectations you guys had for him a year ago. Why do you think that was?
Well, so a couple things. First of all, is I think every year is a little bit different, and there's different whys behind all of it. And when you look at the way that things went last year, it took us a little bit with the change that we made, of starting Nick at the beginning there, that third, fourth game in the season, into him getting hurt in that Minnesota game and then going back to Mitch. And within there were some things that went on, and whether it was just so many different variables. And I think when you look at the season and why did we bring Nick in last year, it was a competition to battle with Mitch, and no one was just handed the job. They had to fight for it, and we knew that going into it. Nick knew that going into it. Mitch knew that going into it, and we let them battle it out. At the same point in time, we knew that if Mitchell wins the job, we know what Nick has been as a backup in this league. We also know that if Nick wins the job, we know what he's been as a starter in this league. So there's so many different things that go into it. And that takes you now to this year. And, Nick and I have had some great conversations as to things that went on last year and the whys behind everything, which is very valuable. And obviously I keep that to Nick and myself. But there's so many different things that go into it. Well, now this year being new, we bring a new quarterback into play with Andy as the starter, and Nick understands that. And so the process that we go about through this isn't just like a one-day process. There's a lot that goes into it. And we feel like this is the best for us as an organization right now. And things are always fluid every year. And this is where we're at right now. And we're excited about it. And Nick understands where we're at. Andy understands where we're at. Our coaches know, Ryan, myself, and that's kind of where we're at right now. So that's there's just a process to it.
Pat Finley.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Pat?
I'm okay. I have a Trubisky question for you. This is the first time we've talked to you since he wound up with the Bills. When you came in, they brought you in part to help develop Trubisky into a franchise quarterback. With the benefit of hindsight now and with some finality to his Bears career, looking back, can you put your finger on kind of what went sideways there?
No, I don't. First of all, I'm indebted to Mitch and what he's done for so many different reasons. And things are, it's hard. It's hard to go through these processes. I care so much about them, and it didn't work out here. And that's I feel like for myself, I want to start with me just knowing like, hey, that's something that when I came here to Chicago, you're dealing with a young quarterback that obviously we all did a lot of work on with that class. I know we did in Kansas City as well. And you come here and different things happen, but the kid worked so hard. He won a lot of football games for us. And when I say I'm indebted to him, I mean, there's so many different conversations and good conversations that we had and things we worked throughout those 3 years. And for different reasons, it didn't work out. But I certainly appreciate the way that he handled everything, and I'm sure he's learned a lot. I know I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot, just like you said, and wanting to try to develop quarterbacks and how do you do that? And, where could I have been better? And try to get better and learn as a head coach in developing a quarterback. I'm sure he learned too in things that he could have done better and differently. But guess what? Here we are, and he's in a new chapter, and we're in a new chapter. And so I have nothing but good feelings for Mitch. I wish him nothing but the best. Teams change every single year. There's always change, and I just that's where he's at. That's where we're at, and. Obviously, we would have loved to have it work for both ends, but it didn't, and this is where we're at.
You said you could have been better. Asking you to speak just for yourself, is there, in what ways?
I think that's a good question. I think for me, as you go through as a head coach, there's a lot of different responsibilities that you have, and so when you look back at the relationship side, the communication side, you always want to go back and say, okay, could I have done more in a certain way of communicating, maybe a different way of how you learn who he is. But as you all know, I mean, the quarterback position has changed in this league in the last, 5 to 6 years. And right now, there's just so much instant gratification that's wanted and needed with teams that, people want it right away, especially too, when you can, hit on a quarterback that's cheap, in their first four years. And so, I'm always going to start with myself and say, okay, where could I have gotten better? And I just feel like, some of it there is me being able to probably, as I build this staff, and we have different parts to the coaching staff of how they deal with the quarterback position, the coaching side, on the field, on game day, et cetera. I just feel like in general, that's probably where I would have started. But I learned through it, and I'm sure Mitch did too. And again, there's a lot of other teams that have been in similar situations throughout the years, and that's just where we're at right now.
Jeff Dickerson.
Hey Matt, it's great to see you.
You too, Jeff.
I'm sure every year in the pre-draft process, when you have to evaluate quarterbacks, there's just so much that goes into that. This year with the changes, the fact you don't get as much time with these guys, has that forced you to change anything as an evaluator? And can you still get a real feel for what these guys are all about despite these limitations?
Really awesome question. I'd say this. It is definitely more difficult because you just don't have, when you're there at the combine and you're able to see these guys, specifically talking about the quarterbacks, throw and see the ball come out of their hands, see their footwork. You get to see every one of those guys from the top guy to the bottom guy. And right now you just don't have the luxury of doing that. As Ryan has said, and everybody knows, we've been to a few pro days with some of these quarterbacks and other positions, and it definitely helps, but there's only so many of those that you can do and see, and just with everything else that's going on. So, but here's what's fair is that every other team is doing the same thing. So there's a lot of teams in this league right now that are always evaluating the quarterback position. Ryan and I are super excited about, going through that right now together and how we do it. And so it's a challenge, but we look forward to it. And it's, there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this draft class.
Adam Hogue.
Hey, Matt. The connection between Andy Dalton and Bill Lazor is fairly obvious. I'm curious, do you envision this offensive philosophy kind of maybe swinging a little bit towards some of what Bill's done throughout his career? And have you decided who's going to be calling the plays this coming season?
Yeah, so the first part in regards to where we go schematically, what I would say is we are literally wrapping up as a coaching staff all of our scheme evaluation, which is a fun process and trying to figure out where we're at, what we want to do. Did we have an identity? What was it and why? Now, when you start developing, and as I said, teams change every year, you got to start knowing, okay, what's the strength of your team? Well, we're not 100% there yet because we still have the draft and we still have some pieces that we feel like offensively, defensively, special teams wise that we can add that can be significant. So once we know exactly where that's at, it'll help us. Now, knowing that going into this thing, having Andy as our quarterback, what we're able to do, and we'd be foolish to not do this, is go back and see the things that he does well, right? And then what things do we do well with specifically personnel-wise, our players, now that we've been with them for 3 years, what are their strengths? And let's kind of, taper this offense towards that. So that's the part where now with this offensive coaching staff that we have, there were some new faces last year. We're now going into year 2 together. So not only for the player side, do they know the players, but we as coaches know the strengths and weaknesses of each other. And now we put that all together. Andy having a background with Bill, that definitely helps. There's a comfort level there, right? They know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And so that part is really good. And so now what we got to do is be able to say, okay, when the players get in here and we're rolling, like what are some of his strengths and weaknesses. And every quarterback is different. It's going to be different than Mitchell. It's going to be different than Nick. It's going to be different than what Alex Smith was at the end there in Kansas City. But that's the fun part. So that's that. And then as far as calling plays, I'm going to be the one calling the plays this year. And so I know you'll probably be asking that, so we can, I'll just let you know that from the front end. But that's an exciting thing for me to get back to knowing where we're at. And it's the fun part right now is building what we want to do better, getting that right with coaches and players that are going to be with us.
Mark Potash.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, Mark?
Good. Ryan mentioned the fit with the offense as being a key to signing Dalton. What exactly does that mean? How does a better fit at quarterback make you a better offense?
Well, every team, every quarterback, every situation is a little bit different. And I think when you talk about fit, there's a lot of different things that go into it. And we all, without getting into specifics, meaning what Ryan's talking about, that's something that we keep to ourselves as to what we like. We're not going to sit here and talk about the weaknesses of a specific player. And so we know what the strengths and weaknesses are of every player on our team. And so when we talk about fit, I think probably some of that goes to schematically some of the things that Andy has done in his career, in his 10 years in this league, that fits schematically some of the stuff that we have done here in the past 3 years, right? Now, some things will be a little bit different. There's going to be some things that Andy likes that Mitch and Nick hated, and vice versa. But we're going to work together to be able to figure out what that is. And so, as a personnel department, as Ryan as the GM, myself as the head coach, and our coaching staff, when we collectively came together and said that, hey, when you go through free agency and you look at everybody that's available, right? It was really a strong consensus for us to get Andy in here and move forward with him as a starting quarterback.
We have time for two more. Mark Grody.
Hi, Matt. Kind of following up with Andy Dalton, the starter. Did some of the competition that you guys have last year that maybe slowed down your progress early in the season, did that go into the consideration as to why there is no quarterback competition this year and Andy Dalton is the undisputed number one?
No, I don't think so. But I could also understand why you asked that question, because I think there is for some situations you can see like that. Those are valuable reps. And we knew going into last year, which was a different year, that's where we were at. We were going to have a competition with Mitch and Nick. This year, depending on what happens with the OTAs in the offseason, we'll take every rep we can get with the ones and with him as the starter. And we'll do the same thing in training camp. But at the same point in time, I can't say that was a determining factor, but it's certainly a part of it. And I think when you do have that guy that going into it, you feel good about it, helps out.
Last one, Chris Emma.
Matt, you spoke last season after giving up the play calling about the benefits you thought were there for you to kind of see the team from a different view. What led you to the decision that you're going to take over back as the play caller, and how did the scheme evaluation lead to this kind of point?
Yeah, I mean that's for me, again, without getting into too much of last year, there's a lot of things that go into that, and when we look through the scheme eval and where we're at. It was for me just something that I feel good about, and it's I'm not real that's like a minor deal for us right now. We're just going through all this stuff, this film, and seeing where we're at. We got bigger things to worry about than that. So it's just that's where we're at right now.
We're all set. Thanks for your time this morning, Coach.
All right, thank you all. Take care.